Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. The clock ticking to November. Senator Mark Warner honing in on the threats for vote integrity this election year.
A lot of other nations other than Russia, China, Iran, others, realize it's really cheap to try to interfere in an election.
And it's upfront season. All the media giants trying to sell spots for advertising dollars. Gary Vaynerchuk, the branding mogul behind VaynerMedia, says the biggest budgets are due for a change.
Building brand on social is common sense to anybody who's an entrepreneur, a startup founder, a creator. But for Fortune 500 companies, they continue to invest in traditional digital.
Plus, the rest of today's stories that got us squawking. And there's a lot of them, like the return of meme stock mania.
Truth is, the big guy is still screwing the little guy, and the little guy just doesn't even know it.
And
if only Phil LeBeau were here.
The DOJ.
Oh my God, there he is.
In the house!
Focusing in on Boeing.
What day is it? It's a Boeing day.
It's Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Andrew by in 3, 2, 1. Cue Andrew.
Good morning and welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We are live at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Joe Kernen. Becky is off today, but we got a lot going on.
So GameStop's up, Sorkin, today.
It is, but not as much as what it was.
It opened at
Yes.
almost 65
It
yesterday.
did.
And it closed at 48.
It did.
So being up today, it gets it into the mid-50s. We still aren't hitting that crazy high that we hit yesterday. I'm torn. There's no doubt. I mean, I agree with you. It's like certifiably insane. But then there are people that write in, so you clowns think it's okay for the hedge funds to have naked shorts and do this and do that, but it's not okay when the individual investor decides to get involved and cause a short squeeze to these hedgies that are screwing us all the time.
This isn't even a short squeeze, and they're squeezing themselves. That's what we keep saying.
But there were huge losses in people that were short these stocks yesterday, almost a billion dollars.
It was very, very hard to borrow this stock, though.
Right.
Which means it's very hard
when you can do it naked.
Well,
I'm playing into all the right. I'm playing into all the.
But the whole idea that the little guy is somehow screwing the big guy.
No, the big guy's screwing the little. Oh, and now they're getting back.
And somehow, but the sad part is, the truth is, the big guy is still screwing the little guy, and the little guy just doesn't even know it. That's the problem.
Okay. Well, I just actually am throwing you some red meat. I don't even want to be involved, to be honest with you. Things are quiet right now.
Your Reddit account is doing okay?
I don't know about Reddit. I would never look at that. I just wouldn't. But my Twitter, my X thing is
Your
okay.
X account is
for now.
For now. Okay, you keep watching that.
How about yours?
We'll see.
What is it, Andrew R. Sorkin?
I know I got some. Yeah, Andrew R. Sorkin, bring it.
Bring it on.
Bring it.
Bring it on.
Nvidia CEO and co-founder Jensen Huang receiving a 60% pay increase last year. His company's share price and revenue soared. His comp, here's the price, $34.2 million last year, up from $21.4 million the prior year. Among the increases, stock awards valued at about $7 million. That's more than the prior year, and also a $4 million cash bonus. He's also going to receive $2.5 million for other various costs, including residential security and consulting fees. But then, of course, that's all like pocket change compared to the stock that he owns in the company.
Can we agree on this?
Yeah.
That he's worth 3 times that?
But he also got it in the stock performance.
Okay.
And he's an owner.
But that's not, so the number is much higher than 32 million.
Yeah, because you got to think about how much stock the guy owns.
Okay, so he's got stock, but you usually look at other people in media that get options.
Yes, I agree on that front. If we were talking on a relative basis to certain industries that are highly paid.
Right. And as we point out, if you've got a lefty that's got a fastball and a slider and 24 years old, and they're worth a lot more than $32 million a year. Are they not?
Who are you referring to?
Could be any left-hander. If you got it, or Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes.
I mean, get her in the right movie with the right co-star.
He's making so much more money than anybody in Hollywood.
Okay, I know. Because of
any baseball player.
That's because he owns the stock.
Right.
Vanguard has named Salim Ramji as its new CEO. He led BlackRock's ETF and index investing business until earlier this year. In that role, he oversaw 2/3 of BlackRock's more than $10 trillion in assets under management. It's the first time in Vanguard's 50-year history that it's putting an outsider in charge. Ramji will start in July. I was flabbergasted by those charts that you had yesterday with Boaz.
Yep.
And the performance in one of the greatest markets of all time, each one of those ETFs is down 30%.
There's closed-end funds. Closed-end funds.
Closed-end funds. And I know the difference because I when I was in the business, Marty Zweig had a lot of closed-end, and it sounded great. There's portfolio insurance going to be great. You buy it at 10.
Right, there's no volatility.
You buy it at 10. Because it goes to 7, but there's no volatility once it gets to 7, and it has nothing to do with the underlying assets. But he made a pretty good case for, that $1.4 billion is just lying there, right? Who has that now? Where would that come from if it did happen? Who is one?
That's what the underlying assets are worth.
That's what I mean. But where you actually see if it's a zero-sum game, BlackRock doesn't lose it, do they?
Do they don't lose the money? No.
So I'm just wondering where it comes from and what's the harm? It must be individual investors that own those shares that are benefiting from it being below net asset value or something.
Yes, and some of them have been borrowed out into this.
You didn't think that's what I was.
You got to think through exactly.
You do.
Where all of it is.
You hip to this, LeBeau, or you just?
You can't out our mystery guest without properly giving him an introduction.
How are you? You ready for this? You geared up?
For AI?
No, for
my
elucidating the Boeing news.
Yes. What day is it? It's a Boeing day. Another day of news.
You're in Becky's chair.
I sit where they tell me to sit. I don't choose.
You look good there, though. You're fine.
Thank you.
Welcome. Let's get to Boeing. The Justice Department says the company breached that 2021 agreement that shielded it from criminal charges over 737 MAX crashes. I hesitate to say the roaches keep coming out from under the cabinet.
But this wasn't a surprise.
But we're talking about Boeing.
It's ugly.
Again
It's ugly. It's bad. Look, it is bad news.
When we talk about Boeing in a good way, does that day ever
They're
come?
finding the bottom right now. My guess is probably 6 to 9 months of just kind of muddling along, getting through the muck. There's nothing in here that is surprising. Okay. We knew the DOJ was looking at this. Let me go through the news here, which is that the DOJ announcing late yesterday that the Boeing company is in violation of the deferred prosecution agreement that was reached between the DOJ and Boeing in 2021. Essentially, they didn't live up to the terms of it, which was, and we're not going to go into all the details, keep your nose clean, run a business that is doing what it's supposed to be doing in terms of regulations, meeting with regulators, et cetera. They didn't do that. The Department of Justice's next move in terms of what they are going to pursue in terms of a penalty off of this, that remains unclear. We'll find out about that sometime over the next 30 to 45 days. This all stems from the original 737 MAX crashes, the two that took so many lives, that initiated the investigation from the DOJ, which ultimately led to Dennis Muhlenberg leaving the company, all of the restrictions that were put in place, and that was set in 2021. The penalty at that time was $2.5 billion as part of this deferred prosecution agreement. Yesterday, Boeing issued this statement in response to the DOJ. We believe that we have honored the terms of that agreement, speaking of the 2021 DOJ deferred prosecution agreement, and we look forward to the opportunity to respond to the department on this issue. As you take a look at shares of Boeing, they're down about 1%. That's why it's not down more. I think people knew this was coming in some fashion. They have until June 13th to make a response. And look, ultimately, the DOJ will decide what they're going to do here. My gut tells me, and this is pure speculation, my gut says a bigger fine, tighter restrictions, and probably some type of a monitor, a court monitor who's going to be appointed. The DOJ is going to say, you couldn't do it on your own? Okay, we'll have somebody who's going to have to be the hall monitor.
But don't they have hall monitors?
They have
Aren't
hall
there lots
monitors.
of hall monitors all over this company, supposedly?
Yes, because you have the FAA regulators who are there.
Right.
Yes, but I think the DOJ is going to go even further and say, we want somebody, not just the FAA, which is looking at how the company is living up to regulations in terms of aviation safety. We want somebody to make sure that you are actually putting in the changes that were supposed to be in place that should have prevented what happened with Alaska Airlines.
By the way, given all the hall monitors, we blame Boeing all the time. Where was the FAA? If the FAA is living inside this company,
so
is there blame there or no?
There is questioning in terms of should they have been more involved in the scrutiny of Boeing. The way it's set up for all aircraft manufacturing is they're a designated authority. In other words, you would be a Boeing employee, you're working on the MAX, and at some point they need to have somebody who's going to check off on things, and the FAA says, look, we're going to make sure that you're the designated authority.
By Boeing. I'm not employed
You are
by the
employed
FAA.
by Boeing. What you hear people say all the time is, well, why aren't there more official FAA inspectors like there are now at this at the MAX plant, and we have more and more of them? Well, that would require Congress and the FAA to have greater funding. And Washington didn't want to say, look, let's employ thousands of inspectors to be at this plant or to be at the Airbus plant in Alabama,
So
et
if
cetera.
this were a documentary on Netflix, it wouldn't be a mini-series of 4 episodes. I mean, this would be, you'd have like 5 seasons. That's my point. I mean, it started with that first MAX crash, and everybody said it was the pilot. And then we figured out it was like the whatever it was.
Well, it was the way the software is designed.
Okay, so then there was the second one. And then so many times it's okay, we've put this behind us now, and now we can move forward.
Correct.
Only to see something else happen. And when was that, 2020? How many years is it? It's
Since the crashes?
Yeah, was that
The crashes were in 18 and 19.
Okay, so it's 5 years. It's
Yeah.
a 5-year cycle. You could see this in future business courses on how not to.
Absolutely. And that, to bring this back to the DOJ, what the DOJ is basically going to say is, look, will their investigation come up with a person who they can say, aha, it is this person here who is... No, I think this was sloppy manufacturing, and they didn't have the processes in place. So now the DOJ is going to say, okay, you didn't do it before under that deferred prosecution agreement. Maybe we extend another deferred prosecution agreement, we slap you with a bigger fine, and we put a monitor in, something like that. The DOJ is basically going to say, we need greater assurity that you will follow the rules.
Well, Six Sigma is like 1 in 6 million, no mistakes. You may not be 1 in 6 million, but when I walk on a Boeing, I'm still in awe of the airliner and how safe it is and how.
Absolutely.
So it's weird. It gets a lot of attention and a lot of publicity, but instead of 1 out of 6 million, it's like 1 out of 4.5 million. I mean, it's still really good. I love Boeing.
It's an incredible company.
Boeing, and I want it to be a great American.
You're not alone. You talk with people in the industry, the country needs Boeing, the industry needs Boeing, the airlines need Boeing. What they need them to do is to get their act together. And I know that sounds like a lump sum kind of, hey, anybody can say that.
I'm starting to like Andrew's take. It's a government fault again. It's not even Boeing's fault. It's the government's. It's always, for me,
I know.
always the government's fault. So are we on this together?
I'm rethinking my position. I'm rethinking my position.
FAA.
Thank you.
Coming up, less than 6 months to the presidential election of 2024, Senator Mark Warner, chair of the Intelligence Committee, what he's watching before the big vote.
AI tools now can launch deep fakes of your face or my face or our voices, or it doesn't even have to be the politician. It could be somebody that appears to be a judge tearing up ballots. Those AI tools can launch at speed and scale that I'm just not sure we're ready for.
More Squawk Pod is right after this. This is Squawk Pod from CNBC.
You are watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Joe Kernen. Becky Quick is off today.
Less than 6 months now to go before the election. Today, the Senate Intelligence Committee is looking at possible foreign threats to the vote. Let's bring in the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Virginia Democratic Senator Mark Warner. He joins us to talk about today's hearing and some of President Biden's. I don't know if did you ever think we'd be saying President Biden's China tariffs? Senator, and TikTok and more. And I always like having you on because you're that rarest example of someone who was a real entrepreneur in the private sector. And now a Democrat in the.
Hey, I can read a balance sheet. I'm in the smallest minority in the Senate. I can read a balance sheet.
I know, exactly. The one thing, how long do you think foreign entities have been trying to influence our elections? I mean, it's at least, is it 100 years or not quite? But now there's
there's always been efforts.
Yeah, but now there's AI.
We saw in 2016. Well, even before you get to AI. In 2016, we saw a massive organized effort where cyber attacks, attempts to try to pit Americans against Americans, mostly driven by Russia. Candidly, in 2020, I think we had the A-team in place in terms of the national security issues. We kept it down. I'm worried in 2024 for three reasons why our elections could be insecure. One, a lot of other nations other than Russia, China, Iran, others, realize it's really cheap to try to interfere in an election. Second, Joe, as you know and I know, there's a lot of Americans who much easier believe crazy conspiracy theories coming over the internet. And third, as you mentioned, AI tools now can launch deep fakes of your face or my face or our voices, or doesn't even have to be the politician. It could be somebody that appears to be a judge tearing up ballots. Those AI tools can launch at speed and scale that I'm just not sure we're ready for.
Right. I'm trying to be bipartisan. And we've got two candidates where the difference between what they actually say and what a deep fake would say they said really isn't that different, Senator. Are you with me on this? I mean,
You mean people, some of these candidates, one in particular, might say some crazy stuff, and consequently a deep fake that would be further.
No, not okay. Yeah, one in particular.
I knew that would get you. Hey, listen,
yeah, your guy.
I'm trying to be equal opportunity.
Yeah, when he came into office, inflation was 9.4%. That sounds like a deep fake because no one who was really all there would try to even make that claim.
Well,
how about
I guess, Joe, what I would say is we got enough disagreement between Americans. The last thing we need is a foreign government or a foreign spy service trying to exacerbate that. And frankly, remember in 2016, what the Russians did, they tried to create literally physical violence. They created this fake event, pro-Muslim, anti-Muslim in Texas. People showed up. We've got Russian groups, for example, trying to unknowingly hire people to show up at rallies. This is a serious issue. We got plenty of divisions amongst ourselves. Let's fight it out civilly amongst ourselves, not have foreign governments intervene. And we just need to do a better job of educating. This isn't just an American phenomenon. We had 20 technology companies in February in Munich say, hey, we're going to take down content-altered, deepfake political ads. They promised all this. I've not seen any action like that. We got the European elections in June. This is why I think in some of these areas we're going to need more than voluntary guidelines.
One of the reasons I mentioned your private sector background was I don't think anyone really wants to end up as a last resort with tariffs. And I think we have a tweet from, you remember when Trump did it, and you remember what President Biden said at the time. And here we go, almost a one-up. So this is what he said. Trump doesn't get the basics. He thinks tariffs are being paid by China. Any freshman econ student could tell you that the American people are paying his tariffs. The cashiers at Target see what's going on. They know more about economics than Trump. That wasn't really that long ago. And now we're, it's what's good for the goose seems to be good for the gander. Do you think this is the right way to go? And you're probably going to tell me this is targeted and it's things that.
No, I'm going to tell you this. Listen, I'm a markets guy, but China doesn't operate on a markets basis. China, you think what they're doing with EVs, that they can produce these EVs at $12,000, that's dumping. What they're doing, what they've done in the solar business, what they've done in the wind business, how they've tried, for example, in telecom with Huawei, where they basically almost give away the equipment, which poses a national security risk for other nation states who buy that equipment. it's one of the reasons why me and John Kernen put together the CHIPS bill. In a market-based economy, you wouldn't have to provide that kind of government support for semiconductors. But if we didn't do that, we'd never build another fabrication facility
ever. Did you criticize Trump's tariffs when he put those on for China, Senator?
I'm sure I probably took a shot. But we also realize that China is playing with a different set of rules. I think wait till you see China dump this number of cheap EVs into Germany and the European market, and let's see what the Germans do as well.
All right. Well, I wish we had more time, Senator, and it's nice when you come up and you I mean, who doesn't want to visit Times Square on any given day, see Elmo and everybody
Invite me
else.
back.
Yeah,
I got away actually easy from you today. You didn't whip me around the axle, Joe, as you normally do.
Well, there's always next time, and hopefully it'll be in studio.
Always next time.
Hopefully be in studio. Yes, maybe your governor's going to be a Veep. You think about that? You ever think about that? Would you say good riddance, or what would you think?
I work with my governor really well.
See, hence the word politician. Very good, Senator. Thank you. Good to have you on today.
Cheese will be next.
Up next on Squawk Pod, it's upfront season. The people and the ads changing media. And the guy who's helping them, Gary Vaynerchuk.
I think the biggest brands in the world, the stocks that are covered here, are actually starting to feel the pain.
Gary V on where we should all be looking for good ads.
The best people are on social that don't even work at advertising agencies. This is why VaynerMedia exploded.
You're listening to Squawk Pod. Here's Joe Kernen.
Stand by, Joe. His mic, cue.
8 TikTok creators are suing the U.S. government, arguing that a new law forcing the sale or ban of the app violates their First Amendment rights. Join us now, Gary Vaynerchuk, VaynerX Chairman. His new book is Day Trading Attention, How to Actually Build Brand and Sales in the New Social Media World. It's out next week, and you're always about 6 or 7 chess moves ahead of me, so I always ask you to go slow.
6 or 7 ahead of you is not that hard.
No, it's not that many, but it's 3D. It's also 3D chess. I think it might be 12 to 20.
I'm kidding, brother. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. What is your point about TikTok and what things like TikTok can do to help you build a brand on social media?
Yeah, I think the reason I put out this book now is I think we're starting to feel the pain. I think the biggest brands in the world, the stocks that are covered here, are actually starting to feel the pain. What I mean by that is building brand on social is common sense to anybody who's an entrepreneur, a startup founder, a creator. But for Fortune 500 companies, they continue to invest in traditional digital, the upfronts are going on right now. Billions of dollars are going to be spent on commercials, whether traditional television or new television, that will not be consumed by consumers. So TikTok changed all of social media because it was the platform that made the individual ad or post have huge reach instead of what I did for a decade, which was build a huge audience and then get a percentage. So social for a decade was email marketing. Get as many followers as you can, like me, and then a percentage would see it. TikTok changed that really on the back of something Tumblr tried to do a decade ago, which was build the interest graph instead of the social graph. That has changed marketing forever.
Okay, so what does that actually mean, though, in practice? Which is to say, if your follower count doesn't really matter, though it does in certain ways.
It matters, it's just not the only thing. Yes.
What do you have to do to break out?
You have to know how to make individual pieces of creative that have the highest propensity, what I would call in the book, the science behind the art. What does the first 3 seconds look like? What's your thumbnail? What's the copy? What's the difference between a carousel ad and a regular ad? What's going on LinkedIn organic right now for all the B2B companies watching versus what's going on Meta?
Sort of what I call the outrage factor. You almost have to do something so sort of stunty. It almost feels like everything has to be a stunt that outperforms the last person's stunt to get to the next place.
I think that is based on how people talk about the world right now, politically, in real life. I think the extremes are getting all the oxygen of convo, but it doesn't show up in the data, Andrew. I think you'll appreciate this. Yes, but but there's a trillion people who are just delivering high quality information value who might not even be, I'm an excitable guy. There's plenty of ways to do this in the mundane, but you're delivering value in information. So when we look at the big data of it all, you don't have to be stunty, you don't have to be shticky. That is one of the things. Humor's a thing, beauty's a thing, but good information, or when I was doing wine, like the wine information, that will matter as well. And so there's a lot of ways to skin this cat.
I think he's onto something, because he pointed to me when he said humor, pointed to you when he said beauty. Did you notice that you?
I'll take it.
Did you notice that you did that?
I find you remarkably funny, and I don't know if you've seen his eyes.
I saw him at the correspondence dinner, and he was tall and thin and tuxed out, and I was like, whoa.
He's handsome, bro.
And you had a haircut? You had just gotten a haircut before the court, right?
Yeah.
So we should want TikTok.
We're wearing makeup this morning.
We are.
Just say, yes.
So is he.
Yeah.
We all are. As old media types, I think we need to ban that stupid TikTok.
Well, what do you think's going on? Old media is incredibly interested.
Can our billions then start reaching people again on TV, or
you know what's so funny?
The genie's out of the bottle?
Funny? The content, you boys are good. People watch you. The problem is the ads are not things that people want to watch. And by the way, I actually believe if the Don Drapers of Madison Avenue actually made 30-second videos in between the break here that were actually somewhat interesting, the ads are garbage. Do you know how bad television commercials are? Do you know that right now, an individual TikTok for nice private label Walgreens mango gummies, one post sells out. Ocean Spray sells out. There's not a TV commercial in the last 5 years.
But is that because the creatives that are working on that either understand that medium, or they're not focused on this? Everybody's moved all their best people to social?
No, the best people are on social that don't even work at advertising agencies. This is why VaynerMedia exploded. The reason my company exploded is because we actually give a crap about social. Do you know what's going on in advertising agencies right now? They're sitting in boardrooms debating for 3 months to make a 30-second commercial that no one on earth is gonna watch. The talent, the creative talent on Madison Avenue cannot compete with the kids of the world that know how to do this. It is the biggest elephant in the room, because meanwhile, for the people that invest here, for both B2B, because LinkedIn's huge, and B2C, they're investing in companies that are wasting 70 to 80% of their money on horrible advertising. The biggest ones that figure it out first are gonna capture tremendous market share. Or creator-led brands are gonna come along and really disrupt. This Prime Energy drink, this Mr. Beast, these things are real now.
Real quick on social media.
Yeah.
Which ones are the most what's effective for you right now? Because there was a big question at one point whether X was really working. Now people are saying X is getting better. I don't know if you think it is.
By the way,
what do you think of the gram these days?
I need to say
what do you think of TikTok?
You really set me up. You hooked me up.
Okay.
It's the reason I wrote the book. The answer is all of them. But all of them can be good or all of them can be bad. This has now become a game of skill. What's a good idea as a profession? Be a baseball player, a football player, a hockey player, a basketball player. They're all good answers. You make a lot of money doing it if you're great at it, but you have to be great at it. Every one of these.
But do you have to be Bo Jackson and be able to play a lot of sports, or do you have to play one of them really well?
You have to be a better version of Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders. My opinion is if you're a company, if you're a CMO that's watching this right now, your company needs to be good at all of them, because there's people that will buy stuff on all of them.
Right.
So you brought me one of these books?
I did, just for you.
Did we just age ourselves by talking about Bo Jackson?
You did. Yeah, although you were looking for a guy who.
That's what I was. That's
yeah.
By the way, he would have said Jim Brown.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was thinking Michael Jordan, but it didn't work out on
That's
golf.
right.
It didn't work out for Michael.
Golf or baseball. Yeah.
It did not.
Golf or baseball.
Men, I'm saying this seriously because I just want to clip this in 5 years and say I told you so. Fortune 500 companies are at a precipice that really matters. The amount of media and creative dollars going in the garbage is profound, and the only historical comp is when we went from radio to television. If you look at the history of how brands were built, when we went from radio to television, some of the biggest brands in the world, Schlitz, Schaefer, declined, and some of the biggest brands exploded.
Go.
Jim Brown was
That's
also
a cap cut at it right there, folks. If you know what we're talking about. If you know, you know.
Just us again tomorrow, I think, Sorkin. I need you. You need me. We need each other. Yeah.
Aw, that's the podcast for today. We need you too. Thanks for listening. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern. Get the best of our TV show right into your ears when you follow Squawk Pod wherever you get your podcasts. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.